Ukraine ramps up missile production. The drone deal takes fight. US President Donald Trump says the decision to transfer missiles is finalized, but with conditions. A power shift in the Czech Republic, a pro-Russian populist party wins the election. We'll tell you more in this episode, so you'll be in focus. Don't forget to subscribe and stay with us for the latest updates. Ukraine plans to scale up production of the long-range Flamingo missiles, which are believed to have already been used to strike targets in Russia, reports The Economist. According to commentators, production is currently about 2 to 3 missiles per day. By the end of the month, they plan to increase that to 7 per day. Each Flamingo missile costs roughly $500,000. By comparison, the US Tomahawk missile is about 4 times more expensive. Thanks to its long range, the Ukrainian Flamingo can confuse an opponent's defenses by continuously adjusting its approach trajectory. By the way, the decision to transfer Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine has effectively been made, said US President Donald Trump while speaking with reporters at the White House. He added, however, that he first wants to know exactly how Kyiv will use the American missiles. And also, Ukraine is expanding strategic cooperation with its partners. Kyiv and Washington have agreed to implement the drone deal initiative, which involves the procurement of Ukrainian drones and the establishment of joint production facilities. Meanwhile, Ukraine military personnel are sharing their unique experience in countering Russian drones with the armed forces of the North Atlantic Alliance. Watch for more.
Ukrainian military personnel are training partners to counter Russian drones. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported that Ukrainian servicemen successfully neutralized several drones in Denmark's airspace during a combat experience exchange as part of a Ukrainian delegation's visit.
Our specialists in countering strike UAVs launched the Sting drone, which successfully destroyed the Danish Banshee. Representatives from various European countries were invited to observe the demonstration, allowing them to witness firsthand the effectiveness of Ukrainian solutions in combating air threats. General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces on Telegram.
Since September 29th, the Wings of Defense exercises have been underway in Denmark, during which Ukrainian and Danish military personnel practice tasks to counter strike drones. The maneuvers come amid increasing incidents of drones violating the airspace of European countries. For instance, in early September, Poland faced a massive attack by Russian drones. Following this, Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski announced that Ukrainian drone operators would train Polish anti-drone teams. The head of the Polish Foreign Ministry emphasized that Western countries urgently need to understand that Ukrainians will be the ones teaching alliance armies to counter Russia, not the other way around.
We need to collectively show Putin that there are limits to his hybrid war where we will stop him. Because remember, this is not an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern. Well, Ukraine has a system of detecting the travel paths of drones, which I believe we should implement, and it has plenty of experience with dealing with drones, both electronically and kinetically, that we need to integrate in our procurement and our doctrine.
In Poland, the largest training center for Ukrainian servicemen, Camp Jomsborg, has been opened. It can accommodate up to 1,200 military personnel simultaneously and will serve as a platform for exchanging experience between the Ukrainian armed forces and NATO armies, according to the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine.
The training center, established with the support of European partners, particularly Norway, will provide training for defense forces and enhance the exchange of combat experience between the Ukrainian armed forces and NATO. Here we will be able to share with partners, among other things, our expertise in the use and countering of drones. Yevhen Moishuk, Deputy Minister of Defense of Ukraine, on the Ministry of Defense website.
Ukraine is the world's only expert in countering Russian drones, stated Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. Her position is shared by NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte.
Ukraine is, of course, a powerhouse when it comes to innovation, insights, for example, when it comes to anti-drone technology, anti-cyber threats, etc. And the fact that Ukraine is now helping in Denmark, in Poland, NATO overall, to basically share its insights gained over more than 3 years, 3.5 years of this terrible, full Russian onslaught, unprovoked, is very important.
In September 2025 alone, Russia launched nearly 10,000 drones at Ukraine. The Russian army constantly changes its UAV tactics. In turn, Kyiv is enhancing its capabilities to counter such attacks, reported Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Oleksandr Syrsky.
We continue to improve the enemy UAV detection system, which increases the effectiveness of their destruction. The Air Defense Unmanned Systems Command is being formed within the air forces of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. We are also developing other countermeasure directions, including the destruction of enemy drones using attack helicopters and light aircraft. We are deploying new crews. Joint work between the defense forces and manufacturers continues to improve and introduce new types of interceptor drones. Oleksandr Syrsky, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, on Facebook.
Ukraine is not only sharing its unique experience in neutralizing the aggressor country's UAVs with NATO countries, but also successfully developing its own weapons production. During a visit to the U.S., the Ukrainian delegation discussed with Pentagon representatives and congressmen the implementation of the Drone Deal Initiative. This involves the purchase of Ukrainian drones and the establishment of joint Ukrainian-American production facilities. This concerns not only air systems, but also maritime drones and ground robotic complexes, in the development and application of which Ukraine has unique practical experience, reported Rustem Umarov, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine. Reported by Yulia Hranovska, UATV News.
In 2024, under the Czech initiative, 1.5 million rounds of ammunition were delivered. The Czech government has expected that ammunition deliveries to Ukraine would increase this year. If we reduce or even stop the support, we will primarily harm ourselves, but stopping this support will also have a negative impact on Ukraine, where even more people will die. The President of the Czech Republic said after the victory of the ANO party, which has announced its intention to end the program. The Populist Party, led by billionaire Andrej Babiš, now has a chance to form a new government. President Petr Pavel has expressed his readiness to begin negotiations on forming a new cabinet. More details on the election results in the next report.
ANO Party, led by billionaire and Eurosceptic Andrej Babiš, is returning to power in the Czech Republic. It received 34.5% of voters' votes in the parliamentary elections. The victory ensures ANO 80 out of 200 seats in the Chamber of Deputies. Babiš called the election victory historic and promised to quickly form a new cabinet of ministers. He emphasized that he would like to see only representatives of his party in the new government.
And I am extremely happy that the ANO movement has achieved a historic result. Yes, historic, and we'll see how it turns out.
The right-center bloc of incumbent Prime Minister Peter Fiala, together, took second place with just under 23%. In third place is the centrist Liberal Party with 11% of votes. Peter Fiala acknowledged his party's defeat in the elections and assured that he will continue to support the Czech Republic's European course. Among the key achievements as head of government, he named achieving energy independence from Russia and economic growth surpassing neighboring Austria and Germany.
The result is clear, and it needs to be accepted democratically, and that is what we are doing. What is also evident is that the ANO movement managed to concentrate votes, including those votes that were lost in the previous elections. And that also needs to be recognized here. Whatever role I may be in, I will not give up the fight against populism and extremism. Let no one expect me to resign or to be tired. I will fight to make sure this country is democratic, free, a solid part of the West.
Czech President Petr Pavel noted that the high turnout in the elections showed active civic engagement and concern for the country's future.
Starting tomorrow, I will hold talks on forming the government with parties that succeeded in the elections and overcame the threshold necessary for entry into the Chamber of Deputies. I wish for the Czech Republic to have a stable government that will address the fundamental issues of our country and ensure prosperity and security for its citizens. Petr Pavel, President of Czech Republic, on X.
The war Russia is waging against Ukraine was an important part of the pre-election debate. Peter Fiala's government actively supported Kyiv. For example, in February 2024, the Czech Republic rallied at least 16 European donor countries and launched the Czech Initiative for supplying ammunition to Ukraine. However, Andrej Babiš, during the election campaign, stated that his government would not participate in implementing this plan. Babiš criticized what he considered excessive aid to Kyiv.
I just hope he stays a populist and does not fulfill what he promised, and that everything will be like it was before. That is how it should be. I mean, I believe that everything he promised will never happen.
Of course, I am not satisfied because someone else won than the one I thought. In general, I think this is bad for the Czech Republic, both economically and politically, especially in terms of foreign policy.
ANO Party and Babiš himself are longtime allies of Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. According to analysts, his election victory will strengthen the populist anti-immigrant camp in the European Union.
Well, what might the next options be? Of course, there are several. The first option is that a coalition will still be formed around Babiš. The second option is that Petr Pavel will stand firm and justify his position with security formulations. That such a person cannot hold the position of Prime Minister of the Czech Republic in these unstable times, especially since Babiš and, indeed, ANO populists advocated and campaigned for stopping aid to Ukraine.
Earlier, President Petr Pavel, who has the authority to appoint the Prime Minister and ministers, indicated that he may reject candidates if their activities undermine the Czech Republic's obligations to the European Union and NATO. On October 5th, the President of the Czech Republic held consultations with the heads of political parties and movements that entered the Chamber of Deputies. After a series of meetings, it will become clear who and under what conditions the head of state will entrust with forming the cabinet of ministers. Petr Pavel noted that he does not intend to delay this process. The new cabinet will be formed quite soon, promised the President of the Czech Republic. Reported by Kristina Dombrovska, UATV News.
What's your take on all this? Share it with us below. This is UATV. Stay sharp, in focus, and stay safe.